back to the Max the Incredible channel, and today is February 17th, 2023, 2.5 months into 2023, so I have decided today is the most ideal, most logical, most definitely not procrastinated day to rank all the 29 albums I listened to last year in 2022. So, I listened to 29 albums last year, and the albums I did listen to are some of them underground, some of them mainstream. All of them are hip-hop. I don't really venture too much out of hip-hop, hence the Public Enemy shirt. So basically all these albums are ranked off of my enjoyment, and I'll go into explaining why didn't I enjoy them, what I did enjoy about them, why I might have them over other albums, give a score, and then I'll give their rankings, and that's pretty much it. There are a few notable albums that I didn't listen to, and I'll explain why at the end of the video. So here we go. Okay, so coming in at 29th place, my least favorite album of last year is going to be X by Ken Carson. And yeah, this album is pretty awful. Nothing redeemable about it. You got super repetitive flows, beats, 808s, pretty much everything. Towards the, not even towards the end, like halfway through the album, you feel like you have already heard the song that's currently playing. It's riding a trend that's not even that good to begin with. It's basically just another one of those Cardi ripoff albums that's way too long and shouldn't even exist in the first place. I feel like a great example is News and Gems are songs that are two back-to-back at the very beginning of the album, and they have the exact same 808/bass hits. I'm not really sure what's going on there. He's like a very unskilled rapper, so you can tell that he's just sometimes saying words and hoping they rhyme, trying to rhyme door with car, and it's kind of just like, so nothing for me that I find enjoying this album. 0.5 out of 10. And 29th place, my least favorite album of last year. 28th spot, second least favorite album of last year, is going to be Life by Yeet. I will admit, the only good thing is that some of these beats are tolerable or a little bit creative, a little bit like head bobbing, a little bit vibey, but besides that, and it's only very few of those beats, it's pretty much very repetitive, very trash, very unlistenable at many points. The only other thing I could say is that with Ken Carson, you cannot tell that it's him on a track. You might think it's just a different Cardi ripoff. With Yeet, he does have track presence, so you can tell it's Yeet on the track, but Yeet isn't very good, so you don't really want Yeet on a track. So that's also another reason Yeet is just terrible, unskilled rapper. His flows are not good. You can't understand what he's saying. All of his content matter is repetitive and been done for years upon years upon years upon years. And I mean, he's not growing as an artist with every album. So it's pretty disappointing to see someone this big actually just putting out garbage. 1 out of 10 from me. 27th spot, another Yeet project, 2 Alive. Basically, the only reason I have 2 Alive over Life is because 2 Alive came out a little bit earlier, technically making it a little bit more original, but it's pretty much the exact same style. Everything that applies to Life applies to 2 Alive. So 2 Alive is a 1.5 out of 10 for me. Did not enjoy. Number 26, Honestly Nevermind by Drake. And I'm pretty sure this is probably his 5th terrible/mid album in a row at this point. 5 years of bad projects, and hopefully Drake can turn it around. But this album is pretty bad. There's a lot of lifeless performances, uninteresting beats, and honestly unlistenable songs at many times. Like, this is a house album, and there's no catchy flows, no catchy melodies, no memorable little like grooves in the beats, nothing like that. You're just getting boring on top of boring on top of boring. Well, the one thing that is decent about this album is at the end, he does drop a hip-hop track, Jimmy Cooks, that is pretty good. Nothing crazy, pretty good. It's a bop. Massive is listenable, and Sticky is also listenable. The rest are just total skips to unlistenable, and the unlistenable ones get pretty bad. So 2 out of 10 for me. 25th spot, DS Forever by Gunna. Gunna is just not a good artist. He has nothing to bring to the table when it comes to hooks, to bars, to flows, to rhyme schemes, to lyrics, to storytelling, to pretty much anything that you would ever want from a rapper. So already getting like a 24-song album from Gunna is harrowing until you hear it and you realize it's worse than you could imagine. The best tracks on this album are mid. The second half of this album is significantly worse than the first, and it's probably the worst track run of 2022. 21 Savage sounds like he's more hungry and eager to be on this Gunna album than Gunna himself. Most of the time, Gunna sounds like he's about to fall asleep or he's like super drugged out of his mind on the mic. Almost like you could basically picture him in your mind drooling and slobbering all over the mic from how bored and tiresome he sounds. So this album is pretty bad, but because it has a lot more tolerable tracks than the ones below, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 10. Number 24, TM. Besides two songs, which I think are absolute bangers, and Keep It Southern and New Shoes, total bangers, great songs, the rest of this album is utter garbage. I mean, many times unlistenable. There's maybe one or two tolerable songs, but they're forgettable, so I can't even name you them. This album consists of like bad melodies, annoying hooks, lots of trash. There's a big theme of like high-pitched vocals, and it just comes out super annoying and kind of hurts your ears at points. It's one of the worst ways to end your band, especially when you have a lot of great projects before this, from what I've heard. There's a lot of weird attempts at like mixing different sounds in their beats that just comes together pretty awful. But because there's like two great tracks, and this track list is only like 10 or 11 songs long, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10. I do really enjoy Keep It Southern and New Shoes. Number 23, It's Only Me by Lil Baby. This whole album is filler. Besides Not Finished, which is decent, just decent. It's listenable, you throw it on, you're not going to skip it, but you're not really having too much fun with it. Besides that, everything is copy-paste, super fabricated. It's way, way, way too long. And then most of these songs are like forgettable and mid, but best believe there is like 5 or 7 honestly terrible tracks. I feel like one that's probably everyone is going to disagree with me is Hey. Hey has probably the worst hook of last year. This album isn't unlistenable, just has a couple unlistenable tracks, but it's painfully boring and way too long. Lots of weird sexual bars as well. 3 out of 10. Dreadfully repetitive. All right, number 22, Come Home, The Kids Miss You by Jack Harlow. This album, it's bad, but it's mainly because it's boring. These songs aren't awful. Like, they're not doing anything. They're not making you bop your head. They're not making you want to sing along with the lyrics. You're just getting lots of nothing from Jack, from the beats, from pretty much everything. I guess the one bad part about this album is the bars. I mean, Jack Harlow, the bars on this album, they're pretty corny. It makes Eminem's bars off Revival seem genius. One example is, I like to dictate things, call me Kim Jong-un. Are you serious? It's not unlistenable. It's just boring. It's just nothing. It's just soul-sucking. 3 out of 10. 21, I Never Liked You by Future. There are some decent tracks in here. I like Wait For You. I like Gold Stacks. I like, what's the Chickens. There's like maybe one other one that I like. But besides that, I feel like this album is very hit or miss, and it's mostly misses. The beats are hit or miss. Future is hit or miss. The features are hit or miss. Well, Future himself, a lot of the time is super offbeat and repetitive with his content, with his flows, and how he portrays everything that he speaks about. Gold Stacks, like I mentioned, I like it. Puffin' on Zooties, I like Wait For You, I like Chickens. That I forgot the name of it. I don't even know. I like those ones. And then in the track list, there's a couple of other listenable songs. But listenable is not entertaining. You don't listen to listenable songs. So there aren't very many terrible songs, but a lot of them are just listenable. but because it is a long album and a lot of these features are terrible, I mean, I feel like I'm just kind of like disappointed. So 3.5 out of 10 for me on Futures I Never Liked You. And number 20, God Did by DJ Khaled. Not too much to say about this album. It's basically just another run-of-the-mill DJ Khaled album. Lots of hits, lots of misses. This one, there's a bit more misses. 4 out of 10 for me. Number 19, Feed the Streets 3 by Roddy Ricch. Lots and lots of mid/boring songs. It is an improvement on the last project, I will say, but like the last project wasn't like a big thing to improve off of. I mean, there are some decent hooks, there are some catchy parts here and there, but mostly it's repetitive and boring. I feel like a big theme for these bottom albums are they just super repetitive, boring, and way too long, which kind of is the same for this album. Besides like a couple moments, this album isn't terrible, it's not awful, but it's just boring. It's not as boring as other ones because you do get those nice moments, but it's still not that good. It's not awful though. If Roddy Ricch is going to drop another album that's mid or bad, I feel like his career is probably going to be over at this point. I don't really see too many people hyped for a new Roddy Ricch album. They're only hyped if they know it's going to be good, but that can never be confirmed. So, for me, I'm going to give this album a 4.5 out of 10. 18th, Drillmatic by The Game. And now I feel like we're kind of getting out of the bad albums, more into the albums that I thought were alright or were decent, good. For me, this album is way too long. There's like 30 or something tracks. It's extremely hit or miss. I'd say it's about even with the hits and misses. The misses are very forgettable. I'll comment on the Eminem diss. The Eminem diss pretty much reflects on the whole album. I mean, the first 2 verses are kind of like not even a diss. Then he's like giving you a history lesson on Eminem, and then like saying, look, I can rap like Eminem, and then like contradicting himself, saying, Eminem, you want to be black, and then like the next line saying like, Eminem, you're Karen, you're calling the cops on black people. And it's just kind of like, you know, this kind of like just not a good diss track. So yeah, I mean, this album has some hits, has some misses. I say it's pretty even down the middle. 5 out of 10 for me. So number 17, Sick by Earl Sweatshirt. And I do like this album. It has a lot of great introspective and retrospective writing. There is 2 unlistenable tracks that I hate, but the rest are good to great, I would say. There's some great production, and obviously you're getting great metaphors from Earl. There are 1 to 2 mid tracks and then 2 unlistenable, as I said. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of good on this album, but there's some bad holding it down. For me, 6 out of 10. Okay, number 16, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So, there's some great writing on this album, I have to admit it. There's also a great concept, but there's a lot of trash beats. The concept, it's great, but it's not executed that well. I mean, I feel like it could be improved upon. Kendrick is known for having conceptual albums, and Damn wasn't really kind of a concept, and neither this was, but it hasn't seemed like he's gone back to the full form of like To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City. There's low replayability on this album, which already is going to bring it down because you want to listen to an album a lot, not just a little. There's a lot of terrible voice inflections all over this album. Like the 3rd verse of N95, oh my god, what is that? And there's some weird delivery as well. The features outshine Kendrick on multiple occasions. Enter in Ghostface Killah with a monster reverse on the end of Purple Hearts, smothering Kendrick on his own album. That's pretty bad if you ask me. There's a lot of contradictions in the messaging. In the cover, he's portraying himself as Jesus with a crown of thorns, but then like on Savior, he's saying, I'm not your savior. So, I mean, like, I'm not sure what's going on there. Track to track, it's extremely inconsistent. Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot more good than bad. I love the writing on this album. I love Count Me Out, songs like that. I love Auntie Diaries. I like Mirror. I love Father Time. I love The Heart Part 5. But then there's songs like We Cry Together. Like, what is We Cry Together? Who is listening to We Cry Together for entertainment? Silent Hill is awful. What is that? Hook. I mean, there's just a lot of songs where you're just thinking, like, why? You're just questioning yourself, like questioning Kendrick. Like, why would you put this out on this album? So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me. More good than bad. I did enjoy this album. I do express a lot of like negativity toward this album because it's 5 years waiting for it. You expected a lot more and it comes up short. And you're always going to be disappointed, especially when Kendrick Lamar is one of your favorite artists. 6 out of 10. Okay, another bit of a disappointing album coming in at number 15, From a Bird's Eye View. There are some great tracks that I love, but there's a lot of unnecessary tracks. A lot of the singles leading up to this album that were just kind of alright or misses made it onto this album, which were super unnecessary. Enter in Sinister, enter in Super, enter in the one with Roddy Ricch. But still, like, that's something there. You could have just cut off a little bit of the fat there. But then you're getting like disappointing features from Freddie Gibbs. There are some great tracks. I love Jean-Michel, but there are some misses. So more good than bad. Kind of the same with Mr. Morale. You expected more from this. You expected Cordae to come with, you know, like, just like enthusiasm and like big like expectations, but like comes up short and kind of like puts a little bit of a halt on his career. The Eminem verse was pretty awful. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me. Alright, so now we're at the other Drake album, number 14, Her Loss. Drake finally put out a good album. Let's go! Yes, finally! Only 5 projects. Only 5 projects. It's a very hit or miss album. There's more hits than misses. 21 Savage, you know, had 21% of the album. It was a little sad. Drake is rapping well on this album, so you can't really complain too much about 21 not being that on this album too much. There's a lot of good lines, good flows. 21 and Drake have a lot of good chemistry, which is very nice to hear. There's some great production throughout, but there's also some bad production. There's some misses on this that you don't really want to go back to. I really like Middle of the Ocean. That's, for me, by far the best song in this album. It's like that lyrical, diary Drake type song that you've seen him do throughout his career, and he's bringing it back, and it sounds great. So yeah, there's just some misses on this album. So yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for me. Number 13, Spaceships on the Blade by Larry June. And this album definitely grew on me. At first, I wasn't really messing with it. I felt the second half kind of fell off. But, like, as time went on, I really started to enjoy this album. It has a lot of great, obvious G-Funk inspired music, but it's modern. So it's not like a ripoff of Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg or Corrupt or Daz Dillinger or any of those guys or Ice Cube. So you get like this great G-Funk production, but then you have Larry June, who has great charisma, and like you just kind of want to hear him rap. He's not like super technical. He's not coming with bars. He's not coming with incredible flows, but he has charisma. That he has a great voice as well. That you really want to listen to him. Just kind of like glide over a beat, especially one of these beats. So I would say maybe there's 1 or 2 misses on this album, but besides that, he keeps the quality throughout the most of the album. It's nothing crazy, but it's really solid and enjoyable. I feel like a great example of this charisma that Larry portrays is on I'm Him, hence the name I'm Him. You're just getting a lot of talk about cars, about money, about focusing on yourself, and it's just kind of nice to throw it on and like chill out to a G-Funk, modern G-Funk album with a lot of charisma. So for me, I really enjoyed this album, 7 out of 10. Number 12 is The Family by Brockhampton. So this is much better than TM by a long shot. This is the first Brockhampton album I ever listened to. I listened to Big Kitty is what I'll call it. I listened to Big Kitty when it came out as a single, and I was like, okay, I really like this. And I listened to the ending, and I was like, okay, I really like this. So I was pretty excited for this album, and I actually really enjoy this album. I know it's been getting mixed reviews. Some people don't like it, but I actually really enjoy this album. I like the minimalistic production on it. I don't think it's undercooked. But also, like, there's like a lot of, like, couple like weird tracks that I really enjoyed. For example, Southside, I think is like a total banger. But there are other ones that are just kind of bad, like Basement. I do not like Basement. Basement is trash. There's a lot of nice lyrics about how the group like went through things and how things could have changed. There's a lot of bangers on this. I really like all that. It's kind of like a 90s throwback, but not really. So it's kind of gives you nostalgia, but it doesn't. And it's just really like enjoyable. I would say it could lose 1, 2, or 3 tracks. But it is the first Brockhampton album I ever heard. I did very much enjoy it, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Now I'm getting into the albums that I really, really enjoyed. Starting off with its number 11, It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. It has a lot of bangers and bops, but the only thing holding this album back is that with all these great tracks you're also getting a couple of duds with it, and the track list isn't too long, so it does take a toll on the album experience. As usual, you're getting incredible bars with Pusha T. Some of my favorites are, like, off the first track, Brambleton, you're getting Black Rari, White Hood, Make It a Race Thing. Dreaming of the Past, another one of my favorites off this album. Great bars all over it. But these are some of my favorites off this. Bruh, you people aren't flexing, you cramping. My weight keeps people on bikes like amblin'. Weight loss, rent loss, scrambling. Now pass the champagne to the champion. My people get money, get money, get money. Like yay sampling. I mean, just a lot of double entendres, a lot of great bars that make you just go like, You're just like, oh, that's smart. Oh, that's clever. Ooh, that's enjoyable. Ooh, that's funny. A lot of bars like that. And obviously you're getting Pusha T's great delivery. The only thing is, again, you're getting an album about cocaine, a lot of coke rap all over this album. But what keeps it interesting is the bars. You got great production, but of course there are some misses throughout that I'm not really vibing with too much. I feel like the best example is Scrape It Off. Kind of a big miss. But I did really enjoy this album. 7.5 out of 10. We're starting off the top 10. The top 10 of 2022 albums I listened to. 2000 by Joey Badass. Yeah, so Joey's back and he is very good. There's a lot of great production all over this album, but he does kind of play it safe with his production choices. He's not really branching out into too many sounds, too many new flows, too many new ideas, but it's still pretty good. It's kind of disappointing that after all this time, you know how talented he is. He's not trying to like push himself too much on this album, but you can't complain because you are getting a very, very enjoyable album. He regresses a little bit on his bars and technical aspects of rapping. I'm not very big on the lovey-dovey songs he has on this album. Besides that, I think the emotional cuts are incredible. Survivor's Guilt, oh my god. And there's a lot of great bops throughout this album. I mean, overall, solid, enjoyable album. 7.5 out of 10. Okay, at number 9. Definitely the shortest album I listened to last year, with about an 18.5-minute runtime. IDK's Simple. So I really did enjoy this album. I really like its conciseness and how like you just throw it on in any situation. It's super enjoyable, super fun. Great production all over this album. Super trippy production. Lyrics are, they're nothing crazy, but they're giving you just enough introspection and like character building of who IDK is and his past to keep you interested besides the beats. Obviously, IDK can sing, so you're getting a lot of great singing performances on this album as well. A lot of great melodies. He pairs his beats with himself very well. His flows are obviously great. You really want to sing along with him. So they're still pretty great songs. And all of them keep that quality throughout the whole thing. You get great features. Denzel Curry comes in with a banger verse. Mike Dimes is really nice on the code. So overall, I extremely enjoyed this album. And it's probably one of my most played from last year. I honestly can't stop giving this album props because there's nothing to complain about. So for me, an 8 out of 10 for Simple by IDK. Number 8. SSS or Sold Soul Separately. It's a very good album from Freddie. I would say that there's one or two skips, but the reason that doesn't hold this album down is because the rest of the songs are very, like, just super high quality, upper echelon hip-hop that you would want from 2022. I really like Space Rabbit and Rabbit Vision. Those are awesome. I like Blackest in the Room. Couldn't Be Done is a banger of an intro. My actual favorite song on this album is the bonus track, Decoded. I think I love the beat, the little do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. CIA is a nice kind of concept song that kind of turns itself on its head and makes you think about things in a completely different perspective. That's really compelling as well. Features are kind of hit or miss, like Moneybag Yo, Offset, Pain and Strife, and Zipper Bags are low points. Those are the two skips for me. Besides that, I thoroughly enjoyed this album. 8 out of 10 for Sold Soul separately, SSS, triple money sign, money sign, money sign, money sign, triple S by Freddie Gibbs for me. 8 out of 10. All right, number 7, definitely a project I don't think anyone expected to be this good. Vinyl Days by Logic, coming off of a pretty bad album in Bobby Tarantino 3 of 2021, and kind of just coming out of retirement randomly to drop Bobby Tarantino 3 was kind of like, what the heck, man? So I didn't expect too much from this album. But it's actually surprisingly extremely enjoyable. It's an hour long, but it keeps you, like, engaged for that entire hour. So whether it's with hilarious skits, great bars, great production, great features, great flows, great melodies, great hooks, great lyrics, great songs. I mean, just everything about this album keeps you engaged. I love the, like, old school production with a little bit of, like, new. There's no misses on this album. Let me get that straight. There's no misses on this album. Everything is done at a very high quality. I won't say it's like everything is like, oh, incredible. I would say it's, oh, great. There's so much replayability on this album. It's basically just a compilation of great bangers, great features, great beats, great performances from Logic, great interludes that are very funny. I know some people have their reservations about Bleed It, but I'm a big Beastie Boy fan, and, I mean, look, I got my Beastie Boys poster right there. So, yeah, I mean, like, I like Bleed It. So, for me, an 8.25 out of 10, Vinyl Days by Logic. Alright, number 6, Learn to Swim by Red Veil. I had no idea who this guy was, or, like, I just heard a couple people talking about, oh, Learn to Swim is great. Learn to Swim is in the top 5 conversation for 2022. Learn to Swim, the easiest, like, strongest part of this album is the soundscape. Red Veil really does know how to create, like, an immersive, atmospheric soundscape all over this album. Like, himself, he's adding his vocals into the soundscape to create that atmosphere for you. Well, here's the trade-off with that. As a rapper, Red Veil is not that impressive. But that's completely fine, because this album is not about the rapping. It's about the soundscape. It's a concept album about learning to swim, which is basically a metaphor for like learning to grow, like improving on yourself and like stuff like that. With the concept, I feel like it wasn't really executed too well with learning to swim and like how to swim and when you're not swimming and when you're drowning. I feel like it's only touched on a couple tracks and here and there throughout the track list. But I don't really care too much about that because this album has such a great soundscape. I mean, you kind of just have to listen to one of the songs to understand the great soundscape. While I am not too big on Sky and its hook and Diving Board, I feel like it's a kind of a low point for me. The rest of the tracks on this album are absolutely incredible. It's super, super replayable as well. So for me, I extremely enjoy this album. 8.5 out of 10 for me. Coming in at number 5 is Denzel Curry's Melt My Eyes, See Your Future Deluxe Cold-Blooded version. Let me tell you why. It's deluxe album. So it has the first 12 or so tracks of Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, but then it has for me, the great and super, super fun to listen to live jazz band soul remixes of the songs on the album. So I'm going to get the negatives out of the way first because there's just like a little few. I do not like X-Wing. For me, X-Wing is a skip. Sanjuro, I don't know. It's all right. But besides that, this album is incredible. I love Denzel Curry's rapping on this. I love his bars, Run the Jewels, Cause I Kill a Mic on any LP. His cleverness on this album is to the max. Of course, you're getting those great Denzel Curry flows. He gets a little bit into his melody bag on this album. The production is great. The soul side has even better production. The soul side, listening to it, you always go, like, what's great about the deluxe, that you listen to the deluxe and you listen to a song, let's say like Angels for an example, and then you listen to Angels, a cold-blooded soul version, you're like, oh, that might be better than the regular version. And then you listen to Angels on the regular version, you're like, oh, no, this is better. And then you just keep going back and forth. But overall, you're just getting great experiences from the deluxe and the regular version. So that's why I have both of these on, because I really, really thoroughly enjoy both versions. And the deluxe brings great songs. And Chrome Hearts is great. I love Chrome Hearts. So I really do enjoy this album. I love the lyrics. There's a lot of great features. Jid, obviously, I wish his feature... I'll get another one thing. I wish Jid's feature was a little bit longer. He drops like 12 bars. It's a little bit disappointing. But overall, this album is incredible. I heavily, thoroughly enjoyed this album. 8.5 out of 10 for me. All right, before I get into my number 4 and number 3 spot, all I'm going to say is that my number 4 and number 3 are pretty much, I would say, the exact same quality, exact same enjoyment for me. So number 4, Cheat Codes by Black Thought and Danger Mouse. By now, I think it's pretty obvious Black Thought is one of the most consistent rappers, starting in like the 90s and like still putting out great performances, great bars, great albums, great projects. And Danger Mouse coming in with incredible production. The soundscape and like atmosphere you're getting on this album is really great. It's like funky, but it's old school. It sounds boom bap. There's dusty drums on this. There's abstract drums on this. There's a lot of... The samples on this album are incredible. So that's just a production. But then when you get to Black Thought, you're getting incredible bars, great storytelling, perfectly executed song concepts, and then you're getting like these great crescendo type songs with great build-ups and awesome endings like Aquamarine. Aquamarine is an incredible song, one of my favorite Black Thought songs of all time. So you're getting that. And then you're getting incredible features on top of that. A$AP Rocky, not known to be like one of the greatest rappers, but he pulls up on one of my probably favorite bangers of the year, which is kind of weird to say song off this album is a banger, but he comes on with banger of the year and dropping bars that I really enjoy, dropping flows that I really enjoy, meshing really well with this kind of like boom bap beat that he's not accustomed to. Obviously, MF Doom is on this album, great verse from him. There's nothing you could like pull back from this album. I mean, the only thing is I say that there's a couple tracks that are absolutely perfect, and then there's the rest of them are just like a cut below, which is incredible. It's not completely like 100% consistent with that platinum standard of music and hip hop, but it's right below that at the gold standard. So 9 out of 10 for me. Cheat Codes, Black Thought. All right, number 3, King's Disease 3 by Nas. And I'll tell you 3. 1, in my all-time rappers list, I have Nas over Black Thought. 2, this is the 3rd album in a trilogy that I have extremely, extremely enjoyed, and I was just excited to see Nas and Hit Boy back. And 3, King's Disease 3 has 3 in its name, so 3, 3rd spot, you get the point. Nas, for me, after this album, is definitively the GOAT. The greatest of all time rapper. No one has as many classics as him, as many great tracks, as many incredible albums such as this one. I mean, the run he's been on in the 2020 decade is incredible. On top of that, you have It Was Written. On top of that, you have obviously Illmatic. On top of that, you have Stillmatic. On top of that, you have I Am. On top of that, you have God's Son. On top of that, you have King's Disease 1, 2, Magic, King's Disease 3. Now talking about the album. First things first, Nas is saying on this album that KD3 is the best out of the trilogy. And when you're listening to this album, you can't really disagree with him. I mean, this album is just so good for me. I love the song concepts. Beef, taking the perspective of beef and conflicts and how people like argue, but looking at it through the perspective of beef itself and saying how that affects beef itself. And then you have Reminisce, talking about how he doesn't like to reminisce. You have First Time, talking about how different people have different experiences first time listening to an artist. Maybe they didn't like it and they grew on, and his first experience is listening to his favorite artists. And how he hopes it's people's first time listening to him on this album. And then you have Ghetto Reporter, where he's literally the ghetto reporter. On the production side from Hit Boy, oh my god, the samples on this are mind-blowing. The sample on Legit, oh my god. Okay, Hood to Hood, that little 80s style piano on it, my favorite beat of the year. You're getting great bars from Nas, obviously, and then you're getting these monstrous, tremendous tracks like Thun, which is just proving to you again that Nas is the GOAT. I can't find anything to knock this album on except that not everything is as great as the greats. So I will say, first half of what WTF SMH is it's alright. But I love what Nas is saying on the second half of what WTF SMH. But I feel like the reason the first half of WTF SMH is kind of like is because it's kind of weird to hear 50-year-old Nas rapping in like WTF SMH, IDK, BRB, LMFAO, IRL. It's just kind of weird to hear him rap like that. And then 30 is, I also feel it's not as good as the other ones. I would say like 30 is like a 7 out of 10 and the rest are like 9 and 10 out of 10s. But I do love the concept of 30, about how he's about to be 30 years deep in rap and he's going 30 on 30 on 30, obviously with 30 years and the 30 summers and the 30 wins. So yeah, so I love that. This whole album is incredible, and I mean, it's just the outstanding child of Nas and Hit Boy. So 9 out of 10 for me. All right, at number 2, God Don't Make Mistakes by Conway the Machine. So yeah, this album is yum. It's very yummy. This album is like just a lot of things for you to chew on. It's super introspective, which I love. I love albums, hip-hop albums that are introspective. And one thing I have to say is that I'm extremely happy that JID was featured on Scatterbrain. So let me give you a rundown of how I found out about Conway the Machine. I'm a giant JID fan, so I was waiting for JID to drop his next album. So I was just listening to all of his features. And then I see JID featured on Scatterbrain. So I'm like, okay, I'll give this a listen. I loved the track. I was like, okay, well, who's this Conway guy? I listened through La Machina. I was like, okay, this guy's pretty good. So after that, I was waiting for God Don't Make Mistakes to come out. And I mean, I'm extremely happy with the result. You're getting incredible lyrics and flows from Conway. Great rhyme schemes, great bars as well. Great production. I love the production on this album. This album has a ton of top 10 Song of the Year contenders. So much more. God Don't Make Mistakes. Guilty. John Woo Flick. I mean, just a lot of great, incredible songs that you just want to listen to for eternity coming off of this album. Guilty is a great representation of introspection and beauty of his lyricism throughout this album. I love so much more and how he's speaking on the second verse about how the media portrays him and rappers as like, oh, gangbangers. They'll portray him when he was getting arrested, when he was selling drugs, when he wasn't making money. But they will never portray him when he was out doing hot meals for the homeless, when he was doing sweater drives, when he was doing charity. They'll never portray him as that. And for me, I don't know why, but I feel like I hear a lot of down talking on rap and how, oh, rappers are just, they're gangbangers and they're not good people, when a lot of the times they're actually doing a lot of charity work behind the scenes. They're actually doing a lot of things to make up for their past. And I really like how Conway kind of goes in depth to that on so much more. Conway's relationship with the beats on this album is incredible. He finds the perfect flows that just pair perfectly with the beats on this album. I love the storytelling on this album as well. Not only are you getting introspective songs on this album, you're getting a lot of bangers. I mean, you're getting a Griselda Posse song with John Woo Flick. West Side Gun, obviously, always going to have fun with a feature from him. I guess the only one thing I could knock it on is Lil Wayne doesn't really seem to know how to flow on Tear Gas. And Babas, I love the beat on Babas. I just wish I actually got to hear Conway rap on it. I feel like that was a missed opportunity. But besides those two minor little nitpicks, this is incredible. I use incredible a lot, but like, it's in my name, so of course I'm going to use incredible. Incredible album. Outstanding. Astute. Platinum standard. 9.25 out of 10 for me. But a number one spot is going to be The Forever Story by JID. And let's be honest with ourselves. Was this really going to be any other album? What other album was going to be number one? Ever since this dropped, I knew this was going to be my number one pick. I'll start off with minor nitpicks and flaws. The Lil Durk feature is terrible. It's awful. Why was Lil Durk featured on this album? Lil Durk had already featured on Corday's album way earlier in the year, and Lil Durk didn't have a good feature there. So why are people still featuring Lil Durk when his solo work, his solo albums don't hold up for themselves, his solo tracks don't hold up for themselves, his features don't hold up for themselves? Why are people still getting features with Lil Durk? I'm very confused on that. Another minor nitpick is on Money. I do feel like Money is kind of just a cut below the rest. The rest are like 10s, and this one is just like a 7. For me, the reason why it's kind of there is like, you have the concept of money and like what it really is, but he's not really like diving into that too much. But also the beat on Money, when there's the children's choir singing, I feel like the beat's incredible. When it's not singing, and then you got those kind of like weird like hits, they're like bam, 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 bam. It's all right. It's nothing crazy. And surround sound, I always skip, because surround sound came out way before this album did, and I over-listened the freak out of that. I over-listened the flip out of surround sound, guys. I was just flipping all over that song all the flippity time. So yeah, so surround sound I always skip because I'm just kind of tired of it. But I do still enjoy that final verse. Now to get to everything else that's not a nitpick and everything that's amazing about this album. I guess I'll start first with the first song. Radar is an absolute banger. Like 6 beat switches or something. And I'm just kind of blowing your mind the first time you listen to it. You're just kind of like even the 5th time you're listening to it, you're just like, oh my God, bro. And not only that, there's just so many great bangers on this album. Radar, Dance Now, Can't Punk Me. You're not just getting bangers on this album. You're getting great storytelling on Crack Sandwich. You're getting great introspective things on Cody Blue 31. Cody Blue 31 is obviously one of the greatest songs of 2022. I mean, you get these great group vocals all over it. JID is getting to a singing bag, and it's really, really good. Stars, for me, Mos Def probably is my favorite feature of last year. I really, really love this feature. I love how the beat switches. I love how it's just kind of like his flow. I love his bars. I love what he's speaking upon. So you can never go wrong with Mos Def verse on your album. You have all of these great features over the album too, but JID is not letting anyone overtake him on this album. That's what I love about this JID on this album. He's so hungry and aggressive to prove this is my album. I'm the one who's putting this album out for you. So even when Lil Wayne is giving you incredible verses on Out of Time, JID still, after he already gave a verse, he still comes in with another verse right after Lil Wayne and doing Lil Wayne's flow, but better. And just showing you that, like, this is my album. No one is going to outdo me on this album, which is just so, like, great. I love that about JID on this album. So I should clarify. The extended version of the Forever Story, because the regular version, I don't know why they couldn't like clear samples for 2007 or something, but 2007 is incredible. I love the storytelling on it. It's just an incredible storytelling album, banger album. Everything you want is on this album. And System, obviously super great introspection, talking about women in his family, women in general, and just how saying like we need to just kind of support our sisters. JID just goes through so many phases on this album. I mean, he's retrospective, he's vulnerable, he's tough, He's clever. He's funny. He's outgoing. He's sexy. He's horny. He's like what do you not get from Jid all over this album? It's like nothing to like really knock this album on. I love like how every track has a purpose. It's not a concept album, but each song have a concept. The production on this album is incredible too. The production is perfect. So I've been waiting for this album patiently. I'm extremely pleased with the result of this album. 9.5 out of 10 for me. That's my ranking for 2022 albums that I listened to. I listened to 29 albums. I guess I could say a few albums that I didn't listen to that people are going to like probably ask me about is Heroes and Villain by Metro Boomin. I didn't listen to that one because I have never listened to a Metro Boomin album before that, so I didn't really have too much to look forward to. And all of the trap albums that I had listened to that were leading up to Metro Boomin's Heroes vs. Villains, all the trap albums sucked. So I wasn't really in the mood for another 2022 trap album. Even though it has been getting good reviews, I'm still not that interested to listen to it. Smino Love for Rent. I don't really know too much about Smino. I heard it was kind of like less lyrical and more like melody. Well, I do like melodies. I much prefer lyrics, and I would rather listen to like an underground lyric guy than an underground melody guy. The Saba album I did not listen to because I just don't know much about Saba. I saw it came out. I didn't listen to it because I was just listening to other albums, and I was just like, I didn't really feel a need to listen to another album. I wasn't like hungry to listen to Saba album when it came out. I was just kind of like, well, I'm already having fun with the stuff I'm listening to right now. Another one, Drill Music and Zion, Lupe Fiasco. Never listened to a Lupe album. He's a rapper that I'm going to get around to at some point. One more album that I did not listen to for 2022 was Nav. I don't even know what the album name is called, much like every single other project Nav has ever put out. Nav is just a terrible rapper, terrible discography, no lyrics, no flow. There's no reason for me to listen to a Nav album that came out anything past his first three. Because after you get that third album where he's giving you the same trash, he's not going to change. There's no point in him changing, especially when his fan base doesn't want him to change. So that's pretty much why I did not listen to the Nav album that came out last year. And there might be one or two other albums that you guys probably will maybe ask me about, and I'll just say why. So yeah. Oh yeah, and one message to my cousin. Let me look at my ranking. So originally, when I gave you my list when you came down for New Year's, I showed you my list, and I know I know that this video is like 2.5 months late from what I told you. I know I had it recorded then. I know I was editing it then. I know I just decided to redo it because I did not want to edit 2 hours of footage. I know I'm speaking to you. I know you love Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I know you love it. And I took your advice. You said Mr. Morale higher. So I did put it higher. Originally, I had it under Sick. And now it's over Sick. So I moved up one spot. Originally, I had it number 17. Now it's number 15. You happy? Better be happy. So yeah, that's pretty much all I could move it up. That's like, I realized I was enlightened. I realized that I was just elevated to another level. In the fourth dimension. Inquiring myself, how could I move Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers up for my favorite cousin? And I realized, listen to the album again, and then listen to the two albums above it, right after. And I realized I enjoyed Mr. Morale like that much. That much more than Sick. That much more. So yeah. You're always getting me Christmas presents. I always forget to get you one. Well, here's your 3-month late Christmas present. My 29 albums I listened to last year, And I feel like 2022 was a very strong year for hip hop. So, out of 29 albums, 11 of them I would say are bad. That's pretty good, especially when the ones above it, besides I would say Drillmatic is alright, the rest I enjoyed. And then there's a lot of them that I extremely enjoyed. Because for me, I would say 8 and above are albums that I love. And there is 9 albums that were 8 and above, rated 8 and above for me last year. So that's pretty good. That's why it's an extremely strong year for hip hop. Oh yeah, and I'll see you next time.